You're standing at the edge of something big: marriage, parenthood, a new chapter that's going to shape the rest of your life. And everybody, from Instagram Reels to Sunday sermons, has something to say about how to get it right, communicate better, love harder, break generational curses, be intentional. And all of that sounds good, right? But there's one question almost no one talks about. Not your church, not your therapist, not your favorite parenting expert online. And this is where it gets interesting. It's not a question about your partner. It's not about kids, bedtime routines, or in-laws. It's not even about you. It's a question for your parent. Now, I know that sounds random. Like, wait, I'm starting my own family. Why are we circling back to mine? But hear me out. Because this one question, it has the power to change everything. Here's why. When we step into lifelong roles, like husband, wife, mom, or dad, we don't step in empty-handed. We carry with us the way we were loved, the way we were ignored, the way our parents sacrificed or didn't, the way they argued, the way they shut down, the way they kept secrets, or pretended everything was fine. And most of the time, we don't even realize it. We just start becoming them. In moments of stress, in moments of love, in moments of fear. We say we'll be different. But unless we stop and examine what we're carrying, we're just packing the same pain in new luggage. That's where the question comes in. It's not just about curiosity, it's about consciousness. It's about breaking unconscious patterns before they quietly become our own. And this isn't just talk. Studies in epigenetics, psychology, and even trauma therapy show that the unspoken griefs of one generation often become the invisible scripts of the next. You're not imagining it. That fear you have about not knowing how to parent, that deep hesitation in choosing the right partner, that's your nervous system asking for clarity. And clarity begins with one honest conversation. Here at the Parent Shift, we don't skip those conversations. We sit with them. We ask better questions. We grow, not just for ourselves, but for every generation after us. So if you're ready to stop repeating patterns and start healing them, this next part is where everything shifts. So, what's the question? Here it is. What did you have to give up about yourself in order to be a parent or a partner? Now read that again, slowly. This isn't a gotcha question. It's not about blame. It's not even about digging up old wounds. It's about understanding the silent sacrifices that shape the person who raised you, so you don't unconsciously inherit those same compromises. Let me explain. Most of our parents grew up in survival mode. Maybe they had to abandon their dreams to feed a family. Maybe they stayed in toxic marriages for the kids. Maybe they silenced their emotions because we don't talk about feelings in this house. That kind of quiet sacrifice becomes a blueprint. And blueprints? They repeat themselves, especially when we're stressed, scared, or trying to prove we're doing better. Why this question works. It shifts the focus from you versus your parent to you understanding your parent. It softens defensiveness. You're not asking, why did you mess me up? You're asking, what did you give up to make this work? It brings out their humanity. You start seeing not just the parent, but the person who became a parent, maybe before they were even ready. Example conversation. You. Can I ask you something a bit personal? Parent. Okay. You. When you became a parent, what did you have to let go of? About yourself? And then you pause. Let the silence do its work. You might hear things like, I used to love painting, but there was never time. I wanted to travel, but I had you young. I was angry all the time, but I didn't know how to ask for help. those answers. They're not just stories. They're warnings. They're mirrors. They tell you what not to repeat and what must be healed. And here's what the research says. The Adverse Childhood Experiences, ACEs, study shows that unhealed trauma often becomes parenting behaviors, like emotional unavailability, overcompensation, or control. Intergenerational trauma is real. According to research from Dr. Rachel Yehuda, trauma can pass through behaviors, beliefs, and even biology. So no, you're not overthinking. You're breaking the cycle by asking better questions. What if your parent avoids it or brushes it off? That's okay too. Their avoidance is still an answer. It tells you what couldn't be named in your family system, and that alone is powerful insight. Because once you understand what shaped your parents, you get to choose differently. With your partner, with your children, with yourself. You stop reacting, you start responding with strategy, not survival. This is how legacy begins. Next up, we'll explore what to do with the answer once you get it. Because insight without integration, that's just awareness without action. But first, let me give you a few more micro-content pieces from this section. So, what happens after you ask the question? What if your parent answers? What if they don't? What if the answer is heavier than you expected? Let's walk through that, step by step. 1. If they answer honestly, don't just hear it, hold it. Let's say your parent opens up. Maybe they say, "I gave up my dream of becoming a writer. I stopped dancing because your dad didn't like it. I was always scared, but I had to pretend I was strong." Now pause. Take a breath. Don't rush to respond. Don't interrupt. Don't try to fix it. Because this right here, this is sacred ground. You're witnessing a truth they probably buried for years. And that's not just emotional. That's historical. You are holding a piece of your family's emotional DNA. Here's what to do. Thank them. Ask follow-up questions with curiosity, not judgment. What do you wish had been different? Did you ever get a chance to reclaim that part of you? Let it sit with you for a few days. Journal about it. Then reflect. How has this sacrifice shown up in you? Your choices, your fears, your relationships? 2. If they shut down or avoid it, that's still data. Some parents won't answer. They'll brush it off with, "Oh, we didn't have time to think about those things. Why are you digging up the past?" Or worse, "Don't disrespect me with questions like that." If that happens, don't fight. Don't force. Just observe. Because avoidance is an answer too. It tells you what emotions were unsafe in your home. It tells you what roles they felt forced to play. And most importantly, it tells you what you were never taught to name. So instead of pushing them, shift the question inward. Ask yourself, what do I sense my parent gave up to become who they are? Use memories, body language patterns, silence. Then ask, am I carrying that same silence into my own life? 3. Integrate the answer. Turn awareness into action. Once you get clarity, whether through conversation or observation, you now have something most people never get, an emotional blueprint of your family's past. Now comes the powerful part. What do you want to do differently? Let's get practical here. If your parent gave up their identity, ask yourself, how can I make space for my own passions even while building a family? If they gave up emotional safety, ask, how do I normalize vulnerability in my relationship or parenting style? If they gave up connection for survival, ask, how do I lead with presence, not pressure? Because healing isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's choosing to pause before yelling. Sometimes it's giving your child the freedom to express what you were punished for. Sometimes it's telling your partner, I need support, and I never learned how to ask for it, but I'm learning now. 4. Use the answer to design your own legacy. This is where things come full circle. You're not just reflecting, you're rewriting. You're taking an inherited narrative and saying, this ends with me, and something better begins. So if your parent gave up joy, you bring laughter into your home. If they gave up peace, you protect rest and emotional safety. If they gave up their voice, you speak gently, but with truth. That's what legacy is. Not perfection, intention. So now that you've asked the question, and you've started to reflect on the answer, let's go even deeper. What are the generational patterns hiding in plain sight in your family? And how do you practically stop yourself from repeating them, even when it feels like your reactions are automatic? Here's the truth. Most of us are already repeating our parents in ways we don't even realize, not because we want to, but because the mind defaults to the familiar. And nothing is more familiar than the environment that raised you. So now that you've asked the question and processed the answer, it's time to pull back even further and look for the patterns. This is the detective work, the healing work, the legacy work. 1. Look at your triggers, not just your memories. You may not remember every detail of your childhood, but your nervous system does. If you explode when your child disrespects you, if you shut down when your partner brings up conflict, if you feel guilty for resting or saying no, these are not random. They're echoes of how emotions were handled or mishandled in your home growing up. Ask yourself, where did I learn that anger means rejection? Who taught me that being tired is being weak? When did I start believing I had to earn love by performing? Patterns hide in reactions, not just reflections. 2. Map the pattern from parent to present. Let's make this practical. Here's how to map a pattern. Step 1. Identify one trait or behavior your parent showed regularly, especially under stress. Example, your dad went silent during conflict. Step 2. Ask, how did that affect me as a child? Example, you learned that silence meant danger or disapproval. Step 3. Observe your current behavior. Example, you either go silent like him or over-explain to avoid silence. Step 4. Choose a new behavior. Example, when I feel overwhelmed, I pause and say, I need a few minutes, but I'm not shutting you out. This is what breaking a cycle actually looks like. Not just awareness, but substitution. 3. Know the top generational patterns that sneak in here are a few common ones. Recognize any? Parentification. You were made to feel like the adult. Now you struggle to let others care for you. Emotional neglect. Feelings were ignored. Now you downplay your own emotions or others. Martyrdom. Your parents sacrificed everything and made sure you knew it. Now you overgive and resent it. Toxic positivity. You were told, just be grateful. Now you suppress pain and pretend everything's fine. You can't change what you normalize. But once you name it, you get to choose something new. 4. Create your personal legacy statement. Let's end this section with something powerful. Write this down or say it out loud. I come from a line of insert pattern here, and I honor that history. But it does not own my future. I will build a home where insert new intention here is the norm, where love is safe, where boundaries are respected, where healing is inherited, not hurt. This isn't just parenting. This isn't just partnership. This is pattern shifting. This is the parent shift. So let's wrap this up, because you've just done what most people never do. You've stepped back. You've looked inward. You've asked the one question that unlocks a whole new level of self-awareness. What did you have to give up about yourself to become a parent or a partner? And here's what you now know. You're not just carrying your story, you're carrying your parent's story. Most of us enter marriage or parenthood with emotional patterns we never chose, but we still live by. When you ask your parent this question, you're not blaming, you're understanding, you're gathering the missing pieces. And whether they answer or stay silent, you've still gained something powerful. Perspective. You've learned to trace your triggers. You've learned to break the cycle, not with force, but with intention. You've learned that healing doesn't mean erasing the past. It means rewriting the future. And now, you're not just preparing for marriage or children. You're preparing for legacy. That's the shift. That's the parent shift. If this hit home, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who's about to walk into commitment with their eyes half closed. And don't forget, we do this kind of deep work every week. No fluff, no generic parenting advice, just real, rooted, transformational conversations. So subscribe to The Parent Shift and let's change the way families begin.